Russ, welcome to Up Close and Personal. What inspired you to get into law?
Both my parents were teachers, and I really thought long and hard about that profession. My dad was a college professor, my mom taught high school, and I wanted to do something along those lines to serve. And the more that I thought about it, the more that I thought I might have an opportunity through law school if I worked for individuals, and that's all I've ever done. And so the one-on-one that a teacher gets, that's something as a lawyer that I enjoy.
What part of the country did you grow up in?
Grew up in Beaumont, Texas.
In Beaumont, Texas. So tell me a little bit about your mom and dad. What attributes do you see in them that have poured into you?
Well, I mean, they've been married 56 years now. My dad was one of these guys who never took himself too seriously. While he was a college professor teaching other people how to teach secondary ed at Lamar for over 30 years in Beaumont, what I learned from him was to laugh, to enjoy life, to try not to sweat the small stuff, which is something that as lawyers we often do. We're sometimes paid to do that. My mom, on the other hand, you know, the little things matter to my mom. Are you spelling right? Are you courteous? Are you doing the right things? And it was just a very strong family and instilled a lot of values in me that I hope that I carry with me today.
So tell me about the type of law that you practice.
Well, I've been licensed for 25 years, and the only thing that I have ever done is personal injury trial law. I actually walked into LeBron and Robinson making $6 an hour as a law clerk in 1983. And we really represented the injured worker. We did a lot of work at the Texas Workers' Compensation Commission. And it was really great to have that personal relationship with the injured worker. But then the law has changed and professions evolve. And we have kind of gotten into where I work now, a lot of the pharmaceutical litigation. So I went from basically a Texas-based practice where I tried cases, appealed cases, and now we kind of do things on the national level. So it's really been quite a process over 25 years.
Do you remember the first victory you had in court?
It was a dog bite case, and the defense lawyer told me that they would never pay a dime on the case. And that's a quote I've never forgotten. And when we won that victory, which wasn't necessarily a huge victory, but it meant everything to me because it was the first case that I tried in Wyatt Hurd's court here in Harris County, Texas. And that was a big day that you just never forget, because I learned a valuable lesson that day, though. My client, while the jury was out, said, you know, you did a great job. I'm really proud of you. Then she looked at me and she said, but I guess the jury will tell me how you did. And she was right. And I've never forgotten that.
Now you have children?
I do. I have two daughters. Jessica is 23. She's a medical student at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and real proud of her. Amanda is 20 years old, and she's a sophomore at LSU, and she will probably end up going to law school. So hopefully we'll have the doctor-lawyer thing going with the kids.
Now you have a 23 and a 20-year-old.
I do.
Now I thought I looked good for my age, but you look incredible for your age.
Thank you very much. I try to stay in shape. I'm a runner. I like to do marathons and half marathons. That's kind of actually fun for me. I enjoy that kind of thing, and I get the added byproduct of hopefully staying a bit thinner and not looking too much older as we get there. But thank you.
How many marathons have you run?
Oh, goodness. If you combine them both, 20. I mostly do half marathons, but I've done a number of marathons as well. But so over 20 races. I try to do about 8 a year.
Tell me how a marathon is like a piece of litigation.
Believe it or not, it's a lot like it, because if you just go out and run without a plan, then you've just got a plan to fail. You have to know what your pace is. You have to know what the course is. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made on the marathon course was that I thought I'd do my first marathon in Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't realize Atlanta, Georgia had a lot of hills. And, you know, being from the Southeast Texas area, I'm used to running in the nice flat land. So I learned real quick that my pace was wrong, that I should have saved my energy, that there are certain places to attack and certain places to hold back. And if you think of litigation, it's really the same thing. It kind of depends who your opponent is. It kind of depends how aggressive you should be or should not be. It kind of depends on what your client needs. Does your client need that constant attention, that constant pacing, or is the client one who wants to put you in charge? And so when I'm running now, I try to get all the weather conditions ahead of time. I want to know what the topography is. I want to know what the elevation is. And if you think about a lawyer who's filing a lawsuit, that's really what they ought to be thinking about. What jurisdiction am I going into? What's the judge like? Who's likely to be the defense lawyer? How do we want to play this? Because it's not the same. Every race is different. Every case is different.
How would your clients describe you?
I hope as personable, as somebody that they can get a hold of, as a friend who's helping them through the process. One thing that I've tried to pride myself on is they call me by the first name. I don't have a huge staff. You hire me, you get me. You will talk to me. If for some reason that I'm not there answering the telephone, you'll hear from me within a number of hours. And with email and every text and everything else that you can do, I'm always available to you. So I would think that everyone who's had a relationship with me would say, you know, he didn't put me off to somebody else. You know, he was my lawyer. If I had a question about strategy or what I needed to do or advice or how to act, he was there.
You're so compassionate about your daughters. I really get that in you. How do you take that, and how does that apply when you're in front of a jury?
I think that when you've been through the highs and lows, especially as a single parent, and you know that the emotions that you can go through, not just through the years with children, but actually through the months and years with a client, things ebb and change, and they have to know that you feel empathy with them, not so much sympathy, but empathy. You have to understand. And that's what a parent has to do, is understand. And then you have to understand, what's the jury perspective? What can I do with this jury to help them to understand my client? And so it's all a matter of what I would call that empathy factor. Can you do that? And then, you know, the life experience of raising daughters and trying to do things the right way. Sometimes, you know, you've got to project your client the right way. No jury rewards a client that they don't like. And so we've got to strive to try to do the right thing, to show that we're doing the best in all that we do.
And I want to ask you, what's your best legal moment?
You know, anytime that you get a verdict, that's a great thing. What's interesting, Rick, is a lot of times you have great legal moments when nobody's around. Sometimes you get an email from a federal court that you've won a hearing that had incredibly important issues of law involved. And I've been involved in a couple of appellate opinions that I'm particularly proud of because they kind of changed the law. There were some new rulings that were made. And sometimes that's very satisfying to me. Now, that's not as necessarily as publicity as a huge verdict or celebrating and hugging out in the hallway and going to dinner afterwards. All that's wonderful and fine. But I think sometimes when you have beaten the odds, when you have changed the law, that's not only going to help one client, but help a lot of clients. To me, that's a real victory.
So, Russ, what gets you up in the morning? What gets your engine running?
To know that there are people who rely on me, to know that I have the ability to help others, and that by staying on the sidelines, I'm hurting them. What I can do if I'm aggressive, if I get up in the morning with that drive, then that means that I am doing a service for them. And I always believe that you're blessed by any service that you do. And in this particular profession, we are given a great opportunity that a lot of professions aren't given. It's not that it's not like I have to go make televisions from 9 to 5. You can have influence, you can have drive, and you can help somebody's life become better for what you do. So that is motivation enough for me.
What do you think attracted you to working with the underdog?
You know, that's a great question. I had always felt like that I wanted to work with people, and it seemed to me that there's the individual and the rights of the individual, that there's nothing more sacred than that. And that sometimes when you see the oppression of the huge companies or certain classes that have been kept down throughout the years, I just always felt like fighting was something that you did competing was something that you did. You know, I was a basketball player all the way through college, and so the competition to me and the group effort really means a lot.
And Russ, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as a person who made things better. I want to be known as somebody that was trustworthy. I want to be known as somebody whose words were their bond. I want to be known as a great husband. I want to be known as a great dad. That's what I want to be known as.